Good afternoon, everybody. We have over 90 people in attendance today. What an amazing amount of interest on this. My name is Greg Kleiber. I'm the Wisconsin Chapter Vice President. I'd like to begin by thanking all of you for doing this webinar. This is one of our first of this type ever. So bear with us as we try to go through this new experiment here that we're calling COVID and whatnot, and social distancing. Today's featured moderator is Paul Wilson. He's a Wisconsin Chapter VP of Technology. Today we will present the SMT printing roundtable discussion.
Thanks to all our panel of experts here that are willing to sit down with us and try and let us pick your brains and help us resolve some of our issues that we're having. Now it's time to open it up for questions. And I wanted to kind of start the conversation off, at least, with a question that I think everybody can at least chime in on. And so that is, what are some of the aspects that we can do to minimize insufficient solders on our prints? And, it can be paste, through stencil, through machine settings, and the feedback that we get through the SPI. So I think all of you experts should have a chance to weigh in on this. And so if I'm experiencing insufficient solders on my paste printing, what can I do about it? And from that, I will let you guys take charge.
Hey, Paul, this is Adam Murling. I'd like to weigh in a little bit on this. I think one of the biggest variables in the SMT process is material selection. So if you don't have the right material for what you're trying to print, mainly powder size and like that, you're not necessarily going to get that transfer efficiency that's appropriate. Now there's also all sorts of process variables, stencils, your deck setting, so to speak, MPM, etc. I'll let the rest of the panel kind of highlight on those, but if you don't have the right powder size for the area ratio you're trying to print, it's going to be very difficult to do that.
I can definitely help expand on that, what Adam said about the powder size. I mean, that's probably one of the most common problems we see, questions from the field about insufficient solder, is that they haven't taken a look at the powder size they're using in their product, and they're using one that's inappropriately large. I'm going to try to show a chart real quickly. So this is kind of a general guideline chart that we like to use to help our customers with some initial selection of powder size. And it kind of highlights the one thing Adam mentioned, is that if you're using a design where you have a type 3 paste, but it really needs something smaller, you are going to get insufficient solders. That's just, there's no way to avoid that through process optimization or stencils. There are some reasonable limits here. So we'll probably talk about area ratio more when we talk about stencils, but this is kind of what we use for guidance as a way to kind of down select materials from a powder type distribution standpoint. The other one I wanted to mention real quickly is print settings. And again, I suspect that the print manufacturers will also talk about this. In particular, one thing I see a lot of times with customers that are complaining about insufficient volume is a mismatch of the printer settings to the paste they're using. And the condition you look for there is either a print speed that is excessively high, or more commonly a print pressure that is way too low for the material that's being used. So that's another tip I'd like to give people, and where I start when people say, I have insufficient solders, what do I do? Look at those two things, size and process settings as the initial screen.
This is John Morini. Just a little history from my past of seeing paste out there is I've actually went all the way to Brazil to look in on a customer that was getting some insufficient, and they didn't realize what paste they had. Either it was, in this case, it was a high-speed paste, and they tried to go print really slow. So they have to understand which paste they have. Do they have a standard paste, really high-speed paste, and so on.
If I had nothing going.
And on the higher speed versions.
I can't really speak to that too much because a lot of our pastes are really designed for really wide speed windows. We don't have something I would think of as a pure high-speed paste. And honestly, in US and Canada, where I cover, speed isn't really the priority. We're not making cell phones here, so a lot of my Asian counterparts, that's something that they're really driven for in their market. But here, we don't have a lot of drive for increasing print speed as any value proposition.